Hi, this is Catherine Rose. I'm with Board Game Geek here at SPIEL 2016. I'm sitting here with Alvin Shen from LudiCreations. He's here to talk about Crisis.
Okay.
So, please tell me about the game.
So, Crisis. This is the nation of Axia. It's sort of caught between the past and the future. It's had this great, glorious past or great culture, but it wants to enter sort of the modern world. And it decides it wants to join this economic union of nations that have formed nearby. This economic union is very competitive though, and they've discovered that they have a lot of corruption in their society. Their manufacturing isn't quite as up to scratch as the others, and they aren't really able to compete on the global stage. And so throughout the course of the game, you're going to come in as industrialists who see opportunity in this crisis. You see, now we have, tires burning in the streets, people are rioting, companies are failing, but what you see is, wow, these companies are really cheap. And there are people just wandering around the streets looking for a job. I can scoop them up for peanuts. And maybe I engage in some shady deals, maybe I go off and do something on the black market. So you can sort of come in and build up the economy and save the country, or you can
swooping in and
swoop in and make your fortune before everything goes to bankruptcy. Right.
Interesting.
So that's sort of the theme of the game.
Are you going to try to build things up, or are you going to try to just reclaim what you can from the rubble that is?
Right, exactly. So the heart of Crisis, while it is an economic worker placement game, it has a lot of differences from what you'd say maybe this standard Euro game where you sort of build your engine and you work on it, and then in the last 1 or 2 turns you try to convert everything into victory points, right? Here, victory points matter all the way throughout the game. So I'll show you the victory point track here. So you notice that we have a game of 7 rounds, and there are 3 ages within the rounds. Oh, yeah. And the Economic Union, or EU, hasn't trusted Axia to actually be able to pay back its loans. So it sets up an austerity plan, and it's set at different difficulties. We have 3 difficulty levels for 1 to 5 players, and each of them can be different. So we have 15 options.
All right.
We can see that the goal in age 1 for round 1 is 19. All the players start with 15 victory points. And let's say at the end of the round, white has done okay. They've sort of beaten the goal. Red has done a little bit of work, and green just didn't do anything. Or maybe they even spent victory points. And our economy is somewhere over here, okay? So at the end of the round, we'll do an evaluation. The white player has improved the economy by 1, while the red is down by 3 and green is down by 4 for a net of 7. So it's actually going to drop 7 points from here all the way down to 17.
Okay.
Right. And so you can see that we have a green, a yellow, and a red financial status for the country. And that will affect the types of events that we pull out from the event cards, which happen once per round.
So either green, yellow, or red cards.
And in the green events, you're mostly going to find that it's things like, hey, the banks have decided to rate the financial status of the country low, and so it drops the economy, but doesn't really affect the players very much. But once you get into yellow and then into red, by red, riots are breaking out, employees are going on strike, they're instituting new taxes, which are really bribes that are required, and so they start to greatly impact how well you can play the game. So that is one thing that happens. But additionally, if we keep moving, if you see like a drop of 7 is very significant, you do it a couple times. If you go negative, then the country has unfortunately gone bankrupt, and the game ends early. At this point, only the players who have met or exceeded the financial goal for that round can win the game. So in this case, if we actually went down to -1, then white would win the game, even if he had picked up penalty tiles at the end of the game.
Because the others just can't win.
Right, because even if we sort of had adjusted his score, it would go down. He's the only one who clearly he was helping the economy.
Yeah.
And
so obviously everyone's going to celebrate him.
Right. So, and the others can't even be in contention because look, they're dragging the economy behind. We said you need to pay up this much money. So red and green can't win at all. However, if all 3 players aren't able to manage to meet the goal, then there can actually be no winner. Right. But you can't actually tank the economy yourself, because the only way to lower the economy to end the game is to lower your own score. So you can't really game the system to say, hey, I'm winning, I'm going to reduce my score to end the game, but then that makes me lose, right? So sort of there's definitely a story arc to what's going on, that the economy itself is fighting you at the same time that you have to compete with the other players.
Interesting.
So I sort of find that that's one of the things that makes it a little bit different. And you can see that we'll also sometimes have to pay our orange diamonds, which are our victory points, to gain things as we import things from other countries and such. All right, so I guess I can sort of explain how the game works.
Sure.
The heart of understanding Crisis is understanding the company cards. So here's a very simple one, which is a farm, and it requires a worker, which has a little hammer symbol.
And you place them on the card.
Yeah. And it requires...
there's space for extra workers.
Right, right. And so this is their input side, and it requires an energy. And you pay 1 energy each round, and you'll produce 2 food.
All right.
So you get 2 food, and you get to place them in your handy-dandy little warehouse. Okay. Nice. Okay. And so very simple, straightforward. Every round, you need to provide another energy. However, you can also shift around your employees and move them to other companies at different times. But let's say at this point, you actually have quite a few different employees, and they can all fill in different slots. So we see here that we have another worker and another farmer, but they're on the output line, so they actually improve the productivity of this company.
All right.
So Axians can do a little bit of math. They go 2 plus 1 plus 2, so instead of making just 2 food for that 1 energy, you're now making 5.
Very nice.
Okay, so this is maybe something you don't see in Euro games a lot, but if you've ever played an RPG, like here's your +2 sword and your +1 shield. It's sort of like loot for your companies. Like instead, I'm going to send my, +3 engineer to work at the power plant.
So that you can...
Yeah, and then I have all this power, and next turn, I don't need power anymore. I'm going to send them to the train station to make them run more efficiently and make a lot of money. Yeah. Right. So that's sort of the simple version.
So basically, you're using all these different buildings to produce the different things you need.
Right. And so you'll be acquiring them when you buy them, which is this one, for instance, costs 10 and earns you 2 victory points. You take it into your private area, and then you can rearrange your workforce on it however you like. But where it comes more interesting is if we look at a more advanced or a little more complicated building like the resort. And so this is the service industry. Again, we need a worker. They require some of that food that maybe we made on our farm on a previous turn. You feed the people of the resort, and they will give you 2 victory points and 2 times 2 or 4 credits, right? And so you don't even have to buy and sell things. You can just make your own points if you want to.
If you then added an extra person here, that would be 4 times.
Right. So it's actually interesting. So if you have this, right, so let's say 2 plus 2 plus 2, so 6 victory points. But Axians are bad at math, and they add before they multiply. So as you were saying, you go 2 plus 2 plus 2, so 6 times 2. Instead of earning 4, you're going to earn 12 credits. And you can sort of imagine when we get to age 3 buildings, these multipliers become huge, and you can get, for every worker bonus, you can actually get 5 more credits or get a lot more points. And so in age 3, you're sort of able to cash in all of your investments and start to make a lot of points and a lot of money.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how many players does this play? I see 3 different colors you've played this out now.
Right.
But
so this plays 1 to 5. Okay. As a solo game, it's definitely more of a puzzle, and as I said, we have different difficulties for different player counts. So you can see that right now we have a set for 3 players
game. This
at
is a
medium.
2 player.
Right. And this is a 1 player at the medium difficulty, and you'll see that the numbers jump
indicates the difficulty level.
An abacus calculator up to a computer, but of course it's an old diesel punky kind of tape deck kind of computer. So instead of starting at reaching 19 as your first goal, you're going to go to 22, and it can jump all the way up to 108, 109, and they go much higher. And obviously when you're competing with people for resources, you're not necessarily going to do quite as well. So you can compete both against the game itself as well as each other. And so of course solo, you have nobody to compete against. 2-player, you have more room to maneuver, but the economy itself is going to fight you a little bit harder than it would if you had to fight with the other players. Yeah.
Now, gameplay, how long does it take to play?
I would say probably on your first go, you should definitely allocate like 2 hours, and then it speeds up quite well. Again, the player count is it ranges widely, but we usually recommend your first game, try playing with 4 players, 3 players, because with 5 players, you really have to come in with a plan and know where you're going to go.
Does the amount of players affect the gameplay at all?
So these styles sort of works the same, but definitely as the worker placement games, everybody has their 4 managers that they move with, and so you're going to have to spend more time as they scatter across the board.
So it will increase a bit, depending on how many.
Right, definitely.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That is Crisis from LudiCreations.